Star Network, covering all things CNS athletics. And here's your host, CNS senior Giovanni Heater. Go North Stars!
What is going on, North Star Nation? Thank you for tuning in, as you always do. Welcome to our very first edition of CNS Postgame. I'm Giovanni Heater alongside Riley Kennedy as the CNS boys varsity basketball team opened up their 2021 campaign last night with a 57-43 victory over the defending Section 3 champions, the Corcoran Cougars.
Hey, Gio. Thanks for having me. And yeah, like you said, I mean, CNS defeating this defending Section 3 champions, Corcoran Cougars, 57-43. It was a huge game. But I think the huge story, as we both know, is new CNS head coach, Kyle Martin. Tell him a little bit about his resume.
Absolutely. Coach Kyle Martin comes over from SUNY Purchase, where he served as the head coach from 2015 to 2020, assuming a 82-53 overall record. Before that, he was an assistant coach at Hamilton College and Morrisville State when Morrisville State went on that run with the Mustangs. He was also a two-time All-Section 3 player at Tully High School, and he's been to the postseason every time he has been a head coach, and he also is coming off the heels of a Skyline Conference championship last year. And underneath him, of course, assistant coach Brandon Banks and Beth Bonin. The two of them have phenomenal resumes as well. The list could go on and on. And the biggest thing about both Brandon Hanks and Beth Bonin, but especially Coach Bonin, Mr. Martin said was just put her resume against anybody else in the area and she just blows it out of the water. Brandon Hanks, a police officer locally, 2008 section champ with Henniger as a player. He was a three-time all-conference player at Morrisville State at the point guard position, 3 straight conference titles. He was also a Dean's List student. And Beth Bonin, a SUNYAC Player of the Year at Cortland, D3 East Region Player of the Year, a CNS grad in 2016, and at Queens College, she was a first-team All-ECC player as well. So just the list goes on and on for credentials, Riley.
Yeah, it's a really impressive resume for all of them. You know, Beth Bonin is the older sister to Brian, who is a senior point guard on this team, who unfortunately did not play last night against Corcoran, but will suit up and be active tomorrow night against West Jenny. But diving into this game, Corcoran, obviously defending 3 section champs, it was rusty for both teams. You were on the call. I was at home watching the stream on YouTube, but lots of turnovers. You know, like we said, talking about before this podcast, is these guys haven't played 364 days in the CNS. Their last game was against West Jenny on February 11th of last season. So, I mean, a lot of these guys haven't played in that CNS gym in an atmosphere, which the atmosphere obviously is not there with the fans. Like you guys said, it was like golf last night, which, you know, no disrespect to golf because my brother golfs and golf's a great sport, but there's no fans. So it was a little bit different. But like I said, a lot of turnovers, but the rust decreased. I mean, take it away. Like, how did the game kind of start off?
So the game starts out kind of slow, right? You mentioned it, some turnovers both ways, but a defensive battle, to say the least. And then all of a sudden, the North Stars just kind of catch their stride, and they're hitting all the shots in the world, and they're just kind of finding each other all over the court, and just some phenomenal performances last night. And the biggest thing that stood out was spreading the ball. And we did make the joke last night that it was like golf when guys were at the free throw line because it just got so quiet in there. But I will bring up the point that the energy was brought by the players on the bench, and it was exemplary on the CNS sideline. Coach Kyle Martin really has this team juiced up, fueled up, and they were creating their own energy. That's what you have to do in a game inside of a pandemic.
Yeah, there's different energy, obviously the coaching staff, but, you know, everybody wanted to play. Everyone's buying into this playing defense, offense, going after loose balls. Some of you didn't see a couple seasons ago, and you hear coaching from the sideline. I mean, you said it. Coach Martin was still coaching with a minute left in the game. I mean, that's the atmosphere he wants to bring. You know, the team chemistry is obviously going to develop. They haven't been playing for, you know, a while together, but I mean, they do have a couple sophomores, juniors. I mean, for returners, I mean, they're returning 7 guys from last season, which is huge for them. They didn't lose any seniors to graduations. A couple guys they lost, but they have 8 new additions to their roster. Robbie Seichin started. He was a new addition. He played. 29 minutes. 29 minutes. Kind of talk about Robbie Seichen's performance. What did you really see?
I mean, he did a really good job facilitating the offense at that point guard spot. He was finding guys open. He was feeding the ball down low. And actually, I kind of want to turn it over to you, Riley, because you had talked about the biggest component to CNS's offense seeing success was those high ball screens, and you really dove deep into it.
Yeah, so CNS really got right off the gate with Gerard, with Noah, with Reese. So they set high ball screens, the top of the key, the 3-point line. And with them, when they set those picks, as a defender, you can do one of two things. You can go under the screen that obviously, Noah or Gerard or Reese set. And if they go under that screen, someone like Brian or Luke or Kevin or Joe, they're going to get their threes this season if this is how their offense is going to be played. Defense pops under that screen, you shoot it. The defender steps over that screen, steps over Noah, Gerard, or Reese. You either can, do a move, split the defender. You can either pass, move that defense, or Gerard and Noah and Reese, they have to keep their head up because it's a little banana peel. It's a little split, rolled right, setting the screen and rolling right to the basket. So when you have that ball in your hands, you have to look at the defender, see what he does, see what he gives you, and then you kind of take it from there. And that's where Noah and Gerard really got most of their points, and that's where threes were developing. 22% as a team from three, not the best, but 60% from two. And you saw Noah. I mean, we're going to talk about Noah a little bit later in this podcast, but he had a huge role. I mean, if that's how their offense is going to develop as the season goes on, I think it's going to be a successful season for them.
So now you mentioned a lot of stats there, Riley. I think it's the perfect time to take a look at the box score because a lot jumps out here. The biggest thing for me is how many guys were involved on the box score, how many guys not only played, but were really getting stats in the offense, scoring points. The biggest thing was getting to the free throw line. Some exemplary play out of multiple different guys in the box score.
Yeah, so Luke Paragon behind Noah Wyzork. Noah Wyzork had a double-double. And he didn't play last year in his junior season. A guy who's going Division I to play for Siena, being a pitcher, plays baseball, but he decided to play his senior season, 10 points, 10 rebounds, 50% from the floor. I mean, that was huge. Luke Paragon had a complete game. The junior forward, point guard, he plays 1 through 3, 1 through 4, you see him, 12 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and a plus 20 in the plus minus category. And if anybody doesn't know what plus minus is, it's a stat I really like to look at. You can see the weak link in the defense. So, I mean, scenario, we jump in, ball tips. CNS comes right down, scores 2. All 5 guys on CNS get a plus 2 in that category. All Corcoran guys get a minus 2. Okay, switch. Corcoran inbounds the ball. Corcoran hits a 3. Well, CNS, all those 5 players had a plus 2. They now get a minus 3. So overall, they're minus 1 on the night. And it's only for those guys on the court, not on the bench. So Luke, who played the most in the game, had a plus 20, and that led any Corcoran or any CNS player. So Luke really had a complete game. Kevin Flasco had 14 points, a couple steals. He led steals on his team on CNS last year with 43. Second was Brian Bonin with 23. So Kevin's a real senior leader, gets that from volleyball. You guys mentioned that yesterday, but he buys into that defense. He bought into it last year. He's buying into it again. Bring that around. Defense succeeds. Offense succeeds. A lot of guys performed well, and it's going to be a successful season, it looks like.
And how about Joey Penizzato coming off the bench, 12 minutes in the ball game, dropped 3 ginormous triples from downtown, a total of 9 points. But the big thing about those 3 triples was the fact that it created that separation, right? The game's kind of close at that point. Corcoran kind of closed the gap a little bit going into the locker room. And then Joey comes out in the third quarter, early on in the second half, and just drains it. I mean, he got hot from downtown. His teammates were finding him. He had confidence shooting the basketball. He's a true gamer, and he was able to create that separation from the North Stars. If they can get their starters to play big minutes, but then have guys contributing off the bench like that, this is going to be a very, very tough team to beat. Again, Gerard Hills had a fantastic game for CNS, scoring 6 points. Conjal had 2, but he had big minutes off the bench as well. A sophomore on the CNS squad coming off the JV team. We talked about Robbie Seichin. We talked about Noah Wazorik. Enzo Latanzio got into the game as well. So just an overall team performance today. We want to talk a little bit about the height, because the height advantage for CNS can carry them a long way this season. Look at this. Look at this, Riley. Kevin Velasco, 6'3". Brian Bonin, 6'2". Paragon, 6'4". Penizzato, 6 foot. Noah Zork, 6'4". The list just goes on. And then you have Gerard Hills at the center spot, 6'6". Chance Crooks is 6'4". Reese Conjol's 6'3". I mean, just mind-blowing size on this squad. They had a huge height advantage over Corcoran, and they're going to have that against most teams that they play against. So if they can rebound the ball effectively, I mean, it's lights out, and the sky's the limit for the North Stars. Robbie Seichin was the shortest guy on the floor last night, and he's a 5'10" point guard. Doesn't get any better. Yeah,
and a lot of things you have to know, you have to recognize is you have to know how to use your length. And I think in years past, struggling, but, these guys, they're going to beat you with CNS are going to beat you with their length for the rest of the season. You have to learn how to use your height, your body. And I think as the game progressed, you saw that length take over from Noah, Gerard, Reese, Luke. I mean, look at Luke. Technically, he can play 1 through 5. He can play point guard to center. Is he going to play center? Probably not. But, they have Gerard and Noah. But it's his length and it's the physicality that comes with it, too. These guys are just, like I keep saying, they're buying in to this team atmosphere that Coach Kyle Martin's bringing, and the length is certainly going to separate them from teams down the road.
Yeah, Luke Paragon did a really good job using his body to get to the free throw line, drawing that kind of contact. Transition play was big for the North Stars, some big fast break points, right? And defensively, they were just lights out. They weren't giving Corcoran an inch, playing tough, physical defense, and it just was... It all goes back to the coaching staff, and it was just fantastic to see calling the game along the sideline, or if you're a fan, it was a big night for the North Stars, and it certainly meant a lot. 57-43 victory. Riley, I think it's the perfect time to introduce our player of the game. Why don't you do the honors?
So our player of the game for game 1 against Corcoran, he did not play last year. As a little foreshadowing, Noah Wyzork, the senior big man, 10 points, 10 rebounds, 50% on the night, 2 for 2 for free throws. He is our player of the game. I feel he played the most complete game, but it was really that came down to any guys, his physicality, his length, but he didn't play last year. He taking a year off. A double-double, 50% in your first game. You're buying into this new coaching staff. And congratulations, Noah, because you are our player of the game for game 1 against Corcoran.
Oh, he was a monster out there, a huge performance, extremely physical on the glass, pulling down rebounds, and then on the offensive end, putting up second chance buckets, pulling down rebounds, and putting up points of his own on the inside as well, coming off screens extremely well. Noah Wyzork with a fantastic game for the North Stars. I think that does a really good job summing up this game. It was a huge win for CNS. Coach Kyle Martin and the North Stars start off the 2021 campaign 1-0. with a 57-43 victory over the defending Section 3 champions, the Corcoran Cougars. Riley, your final remarks.
Yeah, and just going back to our player of the game, Noah, just, breaking down him a little bit. His footwork is tremendous. You have to see his hands, though. His hand size is just incredible.
Yes.
But, the stuff that he puts in when no one's watching, that's the type of player he is. But he's not the only one. All these guys, football players, these baseball players, these volleyball players, it's what they put in out of season. It was tough with COVID, but, these guys just buy in, and they have a worth ethic. I'm a strong believer that you cannot teach worth ethic. You can develop it, but I think every single one of these guys that played tonight, their worth ethic is off the charts, and it really showed. So game one, 57-43 over the defending Section 3 champs, Corcoran Cougars.
Yeah, and all that preparation and that work ethic goes all the way down to Coach Martin opening up the YMCA over the summer, booking courts under his name in the middle of a pandemic, just making sure that his players would go and get shots up and get their reps in. And all of that has translated to their first victory of the season. But the North Stars aren't done. A huge test coming up tomorrow night. It's a Friday night matchup at CNS in the gymnasium against the West Genesee Wildcats. And Riley, you and I both know one of the best teams, not only in Section 3, but in the entire state. Made a state championship run a couple of years ago, and they are deadly.
They are deadly. They are deadly. And CNS is going to be put to the test. They were already put to the test. I mean, like you said, you opened up our podcast. What better way to start off than defending Section 3 champs? You know, Corcoran did lose a lot of players, but you can't take away from them what they won. You know, Section 3 champs. So, but now they're going to be put to the test against West Genny at home. No fans, obviously. The game's going to be streamed on the NFHS network and YouTube, but they're going to be put to the test. They're going to have Brian Bonin back in the lineup. So, you know, we're going to see, how does he fit in? How does he fit into this? So we will see. And we're going to break down another podcast after that game. So I'm glad for our episode 1 of this podcast. And it's going to be all CNS sports. Basketball just got the opportunity to have our first podcast. So we are definitely going to break that game down after their game against West Genny on Friday night.
Absolutely. We're just incredibly grateful to be covering high school sports at this time. You know, if you told us a month ago that we'd be here right now and I'd be calling a game last night, and I probably would have told you you're crazy, you know, and just thank you so much to all the coaches, players, athletic directors, everybody who's been scrambling around, getting schedules to happen, tryouts, and everything to take place just so that we can have high school sports back. I think the community needed it. The players certainly wanted to be out there. The coaches were dying to be out there. And it was a beautiful thing last night to see two teams going at it on the court at the CNS gym for the first time in an entire year. And it was something special. And despite not having fans, there was an energy, there was a buzz in there. And there was just, it was something special.
It really was. It really was. Well, thank you for joining us for episode 1. Gio, take it away.
Absolutely. So just to conclude, coming up tonight, the CNS boys and girls varsity bowling team will be in action taking on the FM Hornets, and the CNS ice hockey team, the CNS Puck, as they like to call themselves, will be opening up their 2021 campaign, taking on Syracuse City at the Twin Rinks. Tomorrow night, I'll be on the call live play-by-play via YouTube Live on the CNS Athletics - the North Star Network YouTube page, the same place you could find this podcast and the first game for CNS basketball. It'll be there. It'll also be on the NFHS network. But go ahead, tune in tomorrow night as the CNS boys varsity basketball squad takes on the West Genesee Wildcats in a home game. A huge opportunity lies ahead. It was a great story against Corcoran and another great one shaping up to be on Friday night. But it was the North Stars taking home a 57-43 victory over the defending Section 3 champs. For Riley Kennedy, I'm Giovanni Heater. Thanks so much for joining us as always. And be loud, be proud. Go North Stars.